Hey guys, my name is Kevin and welcome to another video. I'm going to be doing a 1-hour Photoshop challenge. This is my own challenge, my self-imposed 1-hour time limit for today. The idea I've got for this one is combining peace and storms. And so I want to have one image that has two elements in it, peace and storms at the same time. And so the idea I had was, I had the idea of someone maybe like on their cell phone, you know, they're looking at their phone and they've got their phone turned on and they're looking at it. Maybe they're kind of really focused on it. And there's a storm, like a little bitty storm cloud right above it. And as they're looking at this phone, and there's like these lightning bolts like going right into the phone that they're looking at. And so that's the storm part. And then in the background, I was thinking like have like this beautiful like landscape with the sun is shining. It's just a beautiful day in the background. But this person doesn't see that because all they're looking at is this phone right here with this storm. And maybe, you know, I don't know what storm's going on there, but maybe there's some kind of tension or conflict or some kind of debate or watching the news or something that's just irking this person. But they're so infatuated with this phone and the storm that they're missing the peaceful background. So that's my idea. I want to do it in 1 hour, maybe. We'll see. That's kind of my goal for today. I'm going to be using some stock images for this because we can go to unsplash.com and get some stock images. And so that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some of these in and I may get more along the way. Let's go ahead and open up our first picture. This is a picture of a man on a phone, and so I think I'm going to use this one. So let me go ahead and bring him into my scene. Does not have to match up perfectly, but let's just go ahead and stick him in here. And so the idea I've got is here's the phone, and we're going to put our storm cloud right here, or somewhere right here, and then in the background it's going to be a little bit more peaceful and sunny and warm colors and stuff like that. So that's the idea. All right, so we need a background, and so I found this background as well on Unsplash, and it's just beautiful clouds and stuff like that with an ocean here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and bring this one in here as well. So we want that one. We may get some more, but that's what we're going to start off with. So let's go ahead and start working on our background, and then we'll work on the clouds and the storm after that. All right, so what I want to do for that is I want to be able to select this person out. So I'm going to do a levels adjustment real quick, just kind of see what we're working with. I'm going to make it really dark here, really contrasty, kind of like that. And I think that's good right there. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a pen tool. Sometimes I use the object select tool in Photoshop, but for this one, I'm just going to use a pen tool and select this dude out. I used to always use the pen tool when I was doing Photoshop, and then Photoshop, the newer versions like Photoshop 2020 maybe, or 2021, I'm not sure which one. They started doing the object select tool, which has been really cool, but it doesn't always work the way I want it to. And so I'm going to go back and do the pen tool for today. And hopefully I'll still be able to do this thing in an hour. I'm going to go ahead and select this little cactus guy out here too. Now it is a little bit trickier, you know, trying to select blurry objects because there's no real hard edge in here. But what we're going to do is we're just going to select it the best we can, and then we're going to blur it later. So let me just go ahead and bring this guy in here. And down here it's not going to matter too much because we're down here in the bottom of the screen. So that's not going to matter too much here. I just want to make sure that I can put that background behind him and behind that cactus so that they'll be in front of it, and we won't see any part of the sky being obstructed by them. The reason I made the levels adjustment so much darker is so I can see these little fine edges here that may be lost in the highlights. So I want to make sure I can get all of these little details here. Let me zoom in, make sure this guy's ear is selected properly. See this little highlight right on top of his ear? It's kind of lost. Yeah, it's hard to see without that levels adjustment. So that levels adjustment just kind of helps me figure out how to select him out. As far as the hair, luckily he doesn't have a lot of flyaway hairs here, so I'm not going to worry too much about getting a perfect hair selection. There's one little hair there. I'm just going to kind of skip that one and do this. Men's hair, typically much, much easier to cut out than a female's hair, especially if it's a windy day. Luckily, this guy is inside, and so it shouldn't be too hard. And let's get his ear and part of his beard. Gets a little tricky here because we can't see that edge of his collar, but I guess it's about right there. Oh, we're missing part of this. Yeah, I'm missing part of his highlights here. Make sure we get those highlights in. It's a little hard to see when the background is kind of overblown, but that's okay. We got it. All right, let's go ahead and make a selection. I'm actually going to feather it at 1 pixel, so let's do that. And let's see how we look. Not bad, not bad. I'm going to go ahead and do a layer mask on him. So just click layer mask right there. And that's not bad, except we forgot we forgot the window. So let me go ahead and go back in and get this window as well. Luckily, the window is square. So it shouldn't matter too much. And let's just make sure all of this is selected in. All right, let's make sure we did this right now. All right, so we got that one little thing right there with his in between his arm. So let's go ahead and get that as well. Just a nice little selection right around his sleeves and all these little wrinkles and everything. This is not the most fun part of Photoshop, but it is pretty important. Let's make a selection. Let's do 2 pixels this time. And let's get rid of that. And how do we look right now? I think that looks good enough. Let's see here. I think that looks good enough. It looks like I missed, yeah, I kind of messed up right here. There we go. Let's just get that bottom part of that window in there. And then over here as well. Okay, that is good enough to me. Let me take levels adjustments off. Let's save our thing. All right, so with that, we can go ahead and I'm just going to leave it in a mask right now. I think that should be sufficient, but I am going to put him into a group. Let's just put model right there into a group. And let's go ahead and get our sunshine back here, and let's go ahead and stick this behind him. Now, in the original image, you cannot see the horizon. The horizon looks like it's way up here. It's hard to say because you just see the grass and this other blurry stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on here. So what we need to do is when we put the sky here, we need to make the sky pretty high. And so it doesn't have to be all the way up to the top. We can kind of fake the perspective, but we certainly don't want it down here. We don't want to do that. We just want to have it kind of higher in the scene. I think something like that. Eye level might be pretty cool. We're going to blur it. So I know the scale looks a little bit off, but we're going to blur it pretty crazy in just a second. Let's kind of scrunch it a little bit as well. Something like that. Let's make it just a little bit bigger, like that. Okay. I'm happy with that because we're going to blur it. So It's not a perfect, it's not perfect as far as perspective and stuff, but it's good enough. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and blur this. But before I do that, I'm going to change it to a smart object. And I'm going to do a filter, blur gallery, filled blur, and we're just going to blur this thing. Pretty good. It's blurred pretty good in the original image, so we want to blur it as well. So I'm going to blur the clouds up here. Pretty high, like 70. And then down here, we'll do it just a little bit lower, like 50 or something. 50 or 60. But it's not going to matter too much. Okay, click OK. And now we have it blurred in the background. We actually, we need to do it more. So let's go ahead and click that on that again. Let's do about 100 for our clouds. And then our ocean is going to be about 80 or 90. Okay. That's the cool thing about smart objects. You always go back and change that blur. And I think that looks good. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. Another thing that we're going to notice is that our original image, it's got all of these little textures like on the glass. You know, the glass is not perfectly see-through. You're going to have all these smudges and stuff. And so we need to find some smudges for that. So let me go to Unsplash. I'm on my other monitor here. But let me just find a window picture. Maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. We may have to paint some of it. Or well, let me search for glass texture. Here, I think this is going to work. Okay, so I'm just on Unsplash, and I just searched for glass texture, and I got this. I don't even know what this is. It looks more like marble, but that's okay. So I'm going to put this right over top of my sky layer, and something like that. And I'm actually going to duplicate it and put one right here as well. So we'll have two of these things going on. And then I'm going to change it to overlay or multiply, softly. What are we going to do? Let's change it to overlay, but then let's do a levels adjustment on it. And let's bring some of these colors down like that. There we go. That looks good. That's very smudgy and stuff, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just put a little bit of a blur on it, just a little Gaussian blur. It's kind of like that, just so you can see just a little bit of those imperfections. Like that. And then we're just going to tone it down as far as opacity. Like that. So here's before and after. It's not significant. It's just showing a little bit of imperfections that would be in that glass. That's all that's kind of going on. And then what we want to do is I am going to make a new layer of 50% gray, which is about right in there. Fill that to gray, change it, add some noise to it. I'm going to add 1.5% of noise and then change this to overlay. And now when you zoom in, yeah, that looks pretty good. When you zoom in, it's going to put that noise on top of that background. So it may be hard to see on your computer or your screen, but there is a little bit of noise being added to the background, to that sky, that window. And we do want to make sure we have noise. Anytime you start blurring stuff, you lose all your noise. And so we want to make sure that the noise is still in there. But we don't want to add it to, we don't want to add this noise to the, the top of the screen, because that's going to add noise to him, and he's already got noise on him. So we don't want to do that. Okay, save that. Looks good. All right. We're going to do some blurs later of this cactus edge and his arm and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that yet. I'll do that in a little bit. But let's just go ahead and move on to the next section. Let's check my clock, see how we're doing on time. We are at the 14-minute mark. That's not bad. That's not bad. We are doing good. All right, so let's go ahead and start adding a cloud. And to add a cloud, I could just go look for stock images of clouds, but why do that when you can paint it? So I'm just going to paint a nice little dark cloud. I'm going to grab this color, this cell phone, which is pretty dark. And I'm just going to start painting a little cloud. It's just a cloud brush. You can go online and just search for cloud brushes, and they're everywhere. So you can go online and download your own cloud brush if you want to. Or you can go get a stock image of a cloud if you want to do that too. That's up to you. Let me just kind of do the outline of this cloud, just your standard little black cloud going right here. I don't want to cover up his face. I want to kind of have it like that. All right, there's your little standard cloud. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. And then, you know, you can't just have a solid color. You need to have some highlights. So I'm just going to grab some little grayish colors here and do just a little bit of highlights. Because that sun is probably hitting part of this cloud as well. So you want to have just a little bit of highlights in here. But definitely the bottom part of this cloud needs to be the darkest. So we can have some little bright clouds out here. We can actually have some like little yellow highlights as well, maybe, of where the sun is hitting this cloud. So maybe grab some yellows here. I don't know. Something like that. But definitely want to have some nice black areas down here towards the bottom. Just a dark little cloud. Clouds are not my specialty, so this is not probably going to be the best part of this image, but I'm going to try. Just a nice dark cloud. And let me try to get some nice little highlights right here on the edge of this cloud. There we go. I've got other cloud brushes as well. I could try some of these. Let's see how this looks. So that one's not too bad. Get some more highlights in here. Definitely got to have highlights. You see all the highlights on his face? So there's definitely light coming into this room from the window, and so you want to make sure that this cloud has highlights and shadows on it as well. There's something kind of like this. Looks good. But as you get further down, further away from that window, it's going to be mostly black. There is some light. It looks like there is some light, reflected light inside of this room, but it's still going to be pretty dark down here at the bottom. All right, one more time, trying to get some highlights up here. And we're going to add some glows later. We'll add some more glows up here. All right, and let's go ahead and mask it out and just kind of fine tune this thing. Don't want to spend all time painting this cloud, so sometimes you just got to move on, but it's not the worst cloud I've ever seen. All right. Do just a little bit more painting here. All right, and so what we can do now is if you want to, if you're not happy with your cloud, you can always like download a picture of a cloud like this one. Just copy this thing, bring it in here and just like lay it over top of your cloud that you just drew and then change it to like overlay. You know, or lighten's not bad, but we gotta make it darker than that. You know, so now you get that actual cloud texture in there. Maybe that's what you want. Let's try that. So I changed it to screen. lighten, color dodge, screen. I like screen. Let's just tone it down a little bit. And then let's do a levels adjustment on it. Like that. Lots of different strategies here that you can play with, but we're just trying to get that texture from that actual image of a cloud. Something like that. All right. We're going to add some highlights to it later, but I think this looks good right now. It's a little bit too blue. That's because we added a blue picture in here, this blue picture. So I do want to just turn that to black and white. Control Alt U. No, Control Shift U. Yeah, Control Shift U changes that to black and white. So it takes a little bit of that color out. So it's not that blue color anymore, but that's up to you if you want to do that. All right, good time to save. Let's go ahead and start adding that lightning in. I did find this picture of lightning, which was really cool. Again, it's on Unsplash. Maybe you have your own picture of lightning, but I do have some pictures of lightning, but I like this picture, and so I'm going to use this one. I'm going to change it to screen and actually lighten. Yeah, we're going to change it to lighten. I'm going to bring this guy down here and kind of stick him right about. Oh, it needs to go into the phone. So about right in here. I'd say right there looks good. And I'm going to do a puppet warp on this guy. So if you do a puppet warp, you just click your little pins like this. And then we're going to change this lightning strike so it's got a nice little sharp. Oh, I don't want to do too sharp though. Let's see if I can revert that. Okay, we don't want it to be too sharp where it bends it too much. So let's make sure we're careful there. Okay, I think that's going to work like that. Okay, let's click their check mark. Okay, so I just bent it a little bit, and I still think that looks good enough right there. All right, so what we can do to get this into the cloud here, you know, we have this really obnoxious hard edge here. We don't want that. But what we could do is we could just grab our cloud brush that we just had, and we can grab some of these blue colors, change our flow a little bit lower. And what we can do is we can just start painting on this layer. Go ahead and change it to lighten. There we go. And we can just start painting those colors that are already in the scene, and then we'll just kind of merge it in. I think that's better than like getting a layer mask and trying to we'll do a layer mask, but I think it's better to do it kind of like this as well. Let's grab some of these blacks, kind of do it like this. And so now we're just kind of continuing this little lightning strike layer on. And then as you get over here, it needs to be faded out into that cloud. Something kind of like that. I think looks good. All right, so you see how like this lightning strike is lighting up like the bottom part of this cloud, which is what it should do. So that's good. All right, now once you do that, then we can do a layer mask. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we get part of that layer off of this cloud, because part of this cloud is going off into to the right just a little bit too far. So we're just going to kind of fade this out. And then I'm going to get a little bit of a harder brush here. And where that cell phone is at, I want to make sure it's erased as well, because we want it going down to the screen of the cell phone, not the back of the cell phone. We want it right there into the screen. So just like that. Okay. And we can zoom in a little bit, make sure it's nice and appropriate here. Like that. There we go. So it's going right into that screen. That looks good. Like that. And let me just fine tune it a little bit more on these edges. Just a nice soft mask here. All right, I think that is probably good enough. All right. Now, we've got our nice blue lightning bolt. We've got our orange background, and those look okay, but we've got to do some work on this as well. So this guy right here, he is not having any blue light at him at all, which doesn't make a lot of sense because there's this big blue lightning bolt in his hand. So we're going to have to make him a little bit darker. So I'm going to do a levels adjustment on the group of the model like that. And let's bring him down as far as the darkness. And we see our hard edges on our lightning bolt layer. So let's go ahead and clean that up as well. Since we made everything darker, that lightning layer is a little bit more evident now. Okay, like that. Okay, so we made him darker and also made our room darker, and that's okay. We'll come to that in a minute. But what we want to do now is we want to erase part of that levels adjustment with a layer mask, and we want to just make, pretend, there was lightning in his hand. Where is it going to light up his shirt? And so obviously right here, it's going to light up his shirt because there's a lightning bolt right there. And then so we're going to make sure that part of his shirt is nice and bright. So let's erase part of that levels adjustment there. Then we get up to like his chin, his chin and his beard is going to be lit up as well. And then, even part of his cheeks and his nose are going to be lit up. And so we want to be careful with it, but, it's going to be a little bit brighter because he's going to have this bright light in front of him. Like that. The part of the cell phone is going to be lit up, so we're going to make sure that the cell phone's a little bit brighter. Maybe these tips of his fingers are going to be lit up a little bit as well. So let's do that. Even as you get over here to like his, the edge of his jacket here, you're going to have a little bit of highlight hitting the edges of that jacket and these shadows that are underneath it. It's going to fill those up a little bit as well. But certainly right here at his chest, there's going to be some light going on in there. Okay, but especially like this chin. I do want to make sure his chin, part of his face, is going to be lit up. So let's make sure we have that in there as well. Tip of his nose. So we've got the lights a little bit better, but we don't have the color right. So now let's do another adjustment layer on top of him. Let's try a color balance. And let's go ahead and add some blues to it, like that, some cyans, kind of like that. And go to our highlights as well and add some cyans and blues. And shadows, probably not going to mess with them too much. Like that. Okay, so there's before and after. So invert that mask, and then we'll just paint white on our layer mask. So now part of his shirt, part of his face is starting to get just a little bit of that bluish color here. There we go. It's not blue enough though. We're going to have to do another adjustment here. There we go. Make sure a lot of his face is like that. Okay, let's do another layer on top of it, and we're just going to do straight blue this time. Just get you a nice blue, change it to overlay, and let's just make him nice and blue, or right here on his chest anyway. Nice and blue right on his chest and his face, because we want to make sure, we're trying to sell the idea that there's a blue lightning bolt in his hand. That's what we're trying to sell. So something like that, nice and blue right here, especially where the phone is at. Now you notice we got some different blues here. I'm doing like a cyan blue, but this lightning bolt blue is more of like a purple blue. So let's go to our selective color. Oop, let's not do it that way. Let's do a hue and saturation on our lightning bolt. And let's see if we can change that hue just a little bit like that. And that gets it a little bit closer. If we go this way, it's getting more pink. If we go this way, it's a little bit more teal. So we'll go that way. And I think that matches up just a little bit better like that. All right, now last thing we're going to do to him for the blue is we're going to do one more layer above everything. Make sure it's clipped to the layer, to the model layer. Do a divide blend mode, and we're going to do an orange. And if you do orange with divide, it's going to do this little blue glow. Let's get more of a orangish red like that. Nice and bright and glow. And what we're going to do is we're going to get just a low flow here. I'm going to zoom in. And this is where the most intense glow is going to be. So I'm going to make sure that his beard is getting lots of little glows, all these little hairs inside of his beard, just getting little glows here and there. Bright glows. Maybe his little mustache and his nose as well. We can even add some up here. Just these little highlights from that lightning bolt. But we want them to be nice and bright right here on the edge, because this is the closest part to the light bolt, the lightning bolt. There we go. And then we can also go over here as well. Like here's the edge of his jacket. You know, maybe that needs to be lit up as well. This jacket. There's this lightning bolt here. We could kind of follow that lightning bolt like that if you wanted to. Give it a nice little glow here. Like that. All right. There we go. I do want to go back to this levels adjustment real quick. Get just a little bit more of his eyes in there. And then we'll tone this down just a little bit. Just fine tuning these little glows. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. He's got a nice little bright glow. Here's before. This is before we started with, we did anything, and then here's after. So a pretty significant change to what he looks like, and I think that's pretty good. I'd probably spend more time on it, but that's good enough for now. All right, let's go and work on the background with this nice, bright, sunny background. The same thing we need to work on with the model is that levels adjustment. We need to have a little bit of a rim light on his arms, and so let's go ahead and make a nice little we're erasing part of that levels adjustment that is on the outside of his body now, the spot that is facing this beautiful beach scene right here. Just make sure that the outside of his hair, his jacket, his ears and stuff like that, they are all kind of they've got this nice little rim light effect going. Now this is going to not be a blue rim light. This is going to be more of an orange light going on. But we want to make it look like he's being lit up by the background. Now I can't even see part of it because of this cloud, and so we don't have to do that part. But we just want to make sure that part of his body is going to be lit up by that background, like that. Same thing with our window here. We'll just do that as well. Just make sure that window and this little cactus as well. Make sure this cactus is nice and got some rim light on it. Oops. Do this and this. There we go. All right, I think that looks not too bad there. And now the same thing that we did earlier, we just got to make it instead of that bluish color, we just got to make it more of that orange color. So let's go up right above it's fine. Do a color balance and let's change it to more of a reddish yellow color. Like that, and then just invert it, Control I, and then we'll paint it back onto these highlights. Oh, needs to be, there we go. Here we go. So now he's got this nice little orange rim light going on, and so that's going to pair hopefully nicely with the blue that's in his hand. Same thing for this window. You can have some nice little orange highlights here. Even on the cactus can be nice and orange. That would be fine. All right, but it's not glowing enough, so let's go back to that divide blend mode that we did earlier. Those nice little blues, but instead of a blue, we're going to, instead of an orange to turn blue, we're going to do a blue to turn orange. And so now we're going to get some nice blue colors here, maybe more like a teal color, and start painting some highlights right here on the edge of him. And that's really going to glow, make these outside highlights of him glow. Make sure you get that ear. Ears glow a lot with bright sun, so we'll make sure we get that ear nice and lit up. Even right down here at his arm. Especially right down here, because it's a little bit closer to the sun. You could even have, I don't know if you could have some on his nose maybe, because his nose is facing it. I don't know. Kind of like that. Okay, so here's before and after, which it includes the blue and the orange glows. I think that's good. Let me do one more. I want to make one more layer with an overlay with a white. Change it to overlay just to make his edge just a little bit brighter. Just a little bit brighter. Didn't do a lot, did it? Did not do a lot. Let's see if we can add just a little bit more. All right. I did a little bit. That's not too bad. All right, as I'm looking at this, I'll make some other adjustments. What's my time look like? We are at 39 minutes. So I got 20 minutes left in my self-imposed time here. I think we're doing okay. It's a few little mess ups in here I want to fix real quick. I think that was good. Our cloud is starting to get a little bit too light, so I need to make sure that this cloud gets a little bit darker. like that. All right, that looks pretty good. A lot darker that way. But I am going to go back and do another divide blend mode on top of everything and just paint a little bit of highlights on top of this cloud. Remember we did earlier, we used a blue color with divide, which turned it into an orange, so like that. So what I want to do is I just want to take this blue color with the divide blend mode and just kind of, I don't know if I want to use do I want to use a brush? Let's see. Let's try it like that. Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll just do a nice little highlight right here. Maybe even some up here. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make it look like that sun in the background is hitting this dark cloud with this really harsh rim light here. And then we'll just get a little bit more of a big one right there. Okay. There we go. And let's tone it down just a little bit. I feel like I overdid it just a little bit too much. So let's just kind of tone that down just a little bit. And that's not bad. Hey, let's do it. One more on top of it. Why not? Let's just go ahead and do two of them. But I'm only going to do it right here at the very top for the brightest of the highlights. With a really small little brush here. There we go. That's really, oh, that's really bright there. Very, very bright. Okay, but that's not bad. It looks a little bit more realistic with that bright little effect right there. So I think that's not bad. Okay. As I'm looking at my picture, I just want to make some more adjustments here. I see that I don't like the I don't like all of those little smudges that are on my window, so I'm going to just tone those down just a little bit. Still want to have them there, but I just don't want them too smudged. I think that's good, like that. Let's see. Let's go down here. This is where I get really nitpicky with my images, and I just focus on little details here and there that I see. So I do want to make sure that this little cactus doesn't look right. So I want to make sure that this highlight is hitting this cactus bowl the way that it should. Like that. And then down here as well. And even this little cactus right here, like it should be having just a little bit of rim light, like right on this edge here. So I'm just going to paint just a little bit of rim light right there on this edge of this little pot. Not much, just a little bit. Same on this side, just a little bit. Okay, was that all that necessary? Probably not, but it's okay. Okay, I think that does looks a little bit better, maybe not. All right, let's make our background just a little bit more intense here. So I'm going to go to my background, which is right here. Let's do a levels adjustment on it. Let's bring our whites down just a little bit, make it nice and a little bit darker. Bring it down like this as well. Like that. There we go. And then I'm going to get a mask on it and erase part of that sun. And so kind of make like little rays coming out from it, so that this part of the image is significantly brighter than the rest of it. So you can see it's just a little bit darker like that. I'm going to put a photo filter on it as well, make it even more orange like this. Oh, that's too orange. Maybe like that. Very good. All right, we're about done with this thing. The last thing I want to do is fix those blurs and fix those hard edges. But before I do that, I want to do just a few more little things. Let's go ahead and make another divide blend mode on top of everything. Divide blend mode. We'll do this blue again. And we're going to make our sun nice and bright. And it's going to leak all over this, this part of the window, this part of his face, everywhere. Essentially, it's just going to leak everywhere. Like that. And that's probably overdone. Let's kind of get rid of that real quick. And then in the same layer, we can just go ahead and make a little bit more on our lightning strike as well, if you want to. Make this thing nice and glowing. There we go. I don't know which one's better. I don't know. We'll turn it down just a little bit. Looks good. All right. Any kind of color grade that we want to do, let's go ahead and do that now. All right. I kind of like that, but this has got to be a little bit more like here. And let's bring this to white. Okay, so something like that's not bad. I'm just going to tone it down just a little bit. Let's add some vibrance to this thing. There we go. Very, very vibrant, but it's a cool little picture that we got going here. I'm going to also do a selective color, and I'm going to try to make my yellows and reds just a little bit more, I don't know, magenta, I guess. A little bit more yellow. Like that, and then we'll make our blues even more of that cyan color. That way we have like two competing colors here. We have like a really bright, deep orange color, and we have a really bright blue color going on at the same time. And so that's kind of what I want working together here. And so I think all of that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good, pretty good. All right, so the last thing I want to do, since we are out of time, it's 49 minutes. So what I want to do now is do the blur. We got some really major issues with our blur. Look at this dude's blur. I mean, he's super sharp. It should be out of focus right there. And so we want to fix that. And so what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to put... Let's see what we can do. Let's go ahead and put our model into another group, or into a group by itself, just like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it and just make it into a layer, merge that group into one layer. So now we have him like this. He's on his own little layer here. And so what I want to do is I want to go to Filter and Field Blur again. But let's make sure that when we do his phone and his face that they're all on 0, and even his shirt and this little Nike logo and all that stuff. All these need to be 0. So I'm just going to put a lot of little pegs right here that on the important parts, namely his hands and stuff, they're all going to be around 0, just like that. Oh, that looks good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go around his body and do like 8 or 9 percent for the blur. So we're just going all around. Even right here, we're going to change it to like 5 or 6, somewhere in here. But it's definitely on his arms. Like his arms, the edge needs to definitely be nice and blurry like that. This little cactus needs to be blurry. This little edge of this this window needs to be blurry. So I'm just making little pegs going everywhere. Right here on his face, but not on his eye. So we got to make sure you have a 0 pin where the 0 pin needs to go, and then put some other little blurs in here like that. And I think all that looks pretty good. I just want to make sure his hand and his cell phone are good here. All right, I think that's good. Go ahead, OK, to blur everything. And everything's going to be blurred around his perimeter. Yeah, just like that. But now we have a problem because there's no noise. There's noise on his body, but there's no noise on those blurs. And so we have to add some noise. So go back and get that, make a copy of that noise layer and put it on top of him. But then take it off, invert it with your layer mask. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to paint it on the spots that we blurred. So I'm just going to paint on some of this noise just where we blurred everything. So essentially not on his hand. I don't want him to have extra noise on his hands. So I'm just going to do that. Do that. So you probably can't even see it on your screen. I almost guarantee you cannot see it on your screen. But there is noise on his body, but there's not noise on the blurs. And so we're just trying to add a little bit of noise back in there. And that's really all we're doing to make it look a little bit more like a realistic type of composite here. But guys, I am out of time. That is all I've got for this 1 hour little edit that we have. And in general, I'd spend a little bit more time on this, but I'm fairly happy with how this turned out. This guy has got a cell phone in his hand. It's stormy. He's focused on that, and he's completely missing this beautiful background behind him. And so there's some, a little bit of, emotion going on with this. There's a little bit of a concept going on here, something that you can interpret it differently. But that's all I got for today. I hope that you enjoyed this 1 hour little video, and you're able to watch my process from beginning to end and just kind of see how I do stuff like this. But I hope it inspires you to make something on your own, and I can't wait to see what you guys can create. But until the next video, you have a good one, and I'll see you again very soon.